You're standing in an elevator. Someone gets in. 10 seconds of silence feel like 10 minutes.
And your brain starts running through a list. Weather, weekend, anything.
And somehow, every option sounds stupid before it even leaves your mouth.
Here's what almost nobody tells you. That panic has nothing to do with your English level.
Wait, really?
Native speakers feel it too. They just have a script running underneath, so it doesn't feel like a decision.
So the problem isn't vocabulary?
The problem is that you're treating small talk like a test, when it's actually a signal.
A signal of what?
That you're safe to talk to. That's it. That's the whole function.
Okay, that already changes something for me. I always thought I needed something interesting to say.
You don't. You need to show the other person you're not a threat, and you're not busy fighting them for the elevator button.
I've genuinely never thought about it that way.
Most people haven't. Small talk gets taught like grammar. Learn the phrases, plug them in, but that's not how it works in a real brain.
So how does it actually work?
Let's start with why it feels hard in the first place. Because once you see the mechanism, the fear usually drops on its own.
Deal.
Think about any conversation you've had with a close friend. You don't plan what to say. Words just come out.
Right, because there's no risk. I already know they like me.
Exactly the point. With a stranger, your brain doesn't have that information yet, so it treats the moment as uncertain.
And uncertain feels dangerous.
To an old part of the brain, yes. It's the same circuit that used to check if a stranger in the forest was friendly or not.
So my brain is checking an elevator stranger like they might attack me?
In a very mild, modern version, yes. That's why your heart rate goes up before you say something as small as cold today, isn't it?
That explains so much. I always thought something was wrong with me.
Nothing is wrong with you. You're running a very old system in a very new situation.
Okay, but knowing why it happens doesn't tell me what to say.
True. So let's look at what's actually happening in a real small talk exchange, sentence by sentence.
I'm ready.
Picture this. Two people are waiting for coffee. One says, "This line is moving slowly today."
Simple sentence.
Very simple. But notice what it's doing. It's not information. Both people can already see the line is slow.
So why say it?
Because the sentence isn't the message. The message is, I'm open to talking. Are you?
The words are just the container?
And that's why people freeze looking for something smart. They think the content matters. It almost never does.
So if I say something boring, that's fine?
Boring is the entire strategy. Boring feels safe. Safe is what makes people relax and keep talking.
This is already such a relief.
It gets better. There's a shape to these exchanges, and once you notice it, you'll see it everywhere.
A shape?
Think of small talk like passing a ball. Someone says something small, the other person reacts, then they pass the ball back with something new.
Observation, reaction, question.
You got it in one try. This line is slow today. Tell me about it. I've been here 10 minutes. Are they short-staffed or something?
Nobody planned that conversation. It just built itself.
Because each person only had to do one small thing. React and pass. Not invent brilliant content.
So when I go blank, it's usually because I'm trying to invent something instead of just reacting.
That's most people's actual mistake. They're waiting for a clever line when the other person just needs a human reaction.
What does a human reaction even sound like, though? I don't want to just say cool every time.
Fair. Let's break down what a reaction is actually made of. Because it's not the words, it's the energy behind them.
Go on.
Say your coworker tells you they didn't sleep last night. If you answer flatly, "Oh, that's bad," the conversation dies.
It feels like a closed door.
Now imagine the same words, but with rising energy. Oh no, what happened? Same information exchanged, completely different result.
The tone did the work, not the vocabulary.
Every time. Native speakers lean on a small set of reaction sounds and phrases, and they repeat them constantly. No way. Seriously? That's rough. Oh, nice.
I always assumed those were too simple to matter.
They're not simple. They're efficient. A short reaction with the right tone keeps a conversation alive better than a long, correct sentence with flat delivery.
So I've been over-preparing the wrong part?
Most learners polish grammar and forget delivery. In small talk, delivery carries more weight than grammar ever will.
Okay, so reaction is one piece. What about the question part? That's where I usually panic, because I don't want to sound like I'm interrogating someone.
That fear actually points to something useful. A good small talk question doesn't feel like a question. It feels like curiosity leaking out naturally.
What's the difference?
An interrogation question stands alone. What do you do for work? Out of nowhere feels like a form you're filling out.
It does feel a bit like an interview.
Now, compare that to a question that grows out of what the other person just said. They mention a rough commute, and you ask, do you drive in every day, or is it public transport?
That question already knows something about them.
Which makes it feel like listening, not like a checklist. The trick isn't having good questions ready. It's noticing one detail in what they said and pulling on it.
So I don't need a list of 10 conversation starters memorized?
You need one skill. Notice a detail, then ask about that specific detail. It works in almost any situation because it's built from their words, not yours.
This feels a lot less overwhelming than what I imagined.
It should, because we just removed the two things people think they need: interesting content and a perfect memorized script.
And replace them with reacting and noticing.
Right, which brings up something people almost never talk about: silence.
Oh, silence is the worst part for me. The second it happens, I assume I ruined everything.
Here's something that might surprise you. A short silence in small talk isn't a failure. It's just a pause where nobody has passed the ball yet.
It felt like a verdict to me, honestly. Like the conversation was over and it was my fault.
Watch two strangers talking at a bus stop sometime. There are small gaps constantly. Nobody notices them the way the anxious person inside the conversation does.
Because I'm the only one keeping score.
Everyone else has already moved on to checking their phone or looking at the street. You're the one still replaying the silence 3 sentences later.
That's oddly comforting.
It should be. A pause is neutral. What you do with the next 2 seconds decides where the conversation goes, not the pause itself.
So if I stay calm during the pause, I have time to notice something and ask about it.
That's it. Panic shortens your thinking window. Calm stretches it. That's the entire difference between someone who freezes and someone who recovers.
Okay, I want to bring this back to something practical. Give me a real moment, start to finish, using everything we just said.
All right, you're at a friend's birthday, and you're standing near someone you've never met, holding a drink, saying nothing.
My nightmare scenario.
You notice they're wearing a jacket with a band logo. That's your detail. Is that from a concert you went to, or just a jacket you own?
Small, specific, based on something real in front of me.
They answer. Maybe they say it's from a show 2 years ago. Now you react first. No way. Which one? Then you let them talk.
I passed the ball, they ran with it, I reacted.
And somewhere in their answer, there's another small detail. The city, the friend they went with, how loud it was. You pick one and pass again.
So the entire conversation can run on details they've already given me?
Most conversations do. People assume small talk requires a constant supply of new topics. It really just requires paying attention to the one you're already in.
This is such a different way to think about it. I used to treat every silence as a moment where I had to produce something impressive.
And that pressure is what shuts people down. The moment you stop trying to be impressive and start trying to be present, it gets easier almost immediately.
Present, not impressive.
That's where everything changes. Nobody remembers the clever sentence a stranger said to them at a party. They remember how the conversation felt.
How it felt, not what was said.
Which means your grammar mistakes, your accent, your pauses, none of that is what people are actually judging. They're reading whether you seem interested in them.
I think I've spent years worrying about the wrong thing.
A lot of people have. Fluency helps, of course, but warmth carries a conversation further than perfect sentences ever could.
Can I bring up something that stresses me out just as much as starting? Ending the conversation.
Oh, that's a real one. People get stuck talking way past the point where either person wants to be there.
Because I don't know how to leave without it feeling rude.
Here's what helps. An ending doesn't need an excuse. It needs a signal, the same way the opening did.
What kind of signal?
Watch what happens when someone says, "Well, I should let you get back to it," while already shifting their body slightly toward the door.
The words and the body are saying the same thing at the same time.
That match is what makes it feel natural instead of abrupt. If you say the words but your body stays frozen facing them, it reads as awkward, even if the sentence was correct.
So the exit line matters less than I thought.
Much less. "It was nice talking to you," works fine. "I should grab a drink," works fine. Almost anything works as long as it's paired with a small physical shift.
I always searched for some clever closing line, like I needed permission to leave.
Nobody's granting permission in these moments. You're just signaling, and the other person, most of the time, is relieved too.
Wait, relieved?
Remember, they're running the same internal system you are. A clear, warm ending removes pressure from both sides. Nobody has to guess when it's over.
So a good ending is actually a small gift to the other person, not something I need to apologize for.
That's it. And once endings stop feeling dangerous, the whole conversation feels lighter from the very first sentence, because you know you're never trapped in it.
So, if someone's watching this and their English is still developing, they can still be good at small talk?
Especially then. Because once you stop hunting for the perfect words, you free up attention to actually listen. And listening is what makes people feel comfortable around you.
I like that small talk isn't really about talking at all.
It's about attention. The talking is just how the attention becomes visible.
So, next time I'm in that elevator,
You're not going to look for something smart to say.
I'm going to notice something real and pass it back and forth like a ball.
And let the silence be a pause, not a verdict.
I think that's the version of this I'll actually remember.
That's usually how you know an idea worked. Not when you memorize it, but when you can feel yourself already using it.
If this changed the way you think about small talk with a stranger, you know where the subscribe button is.
See you in the next one.